course, YouTube 24/7. We just hit a new record of 280 shows on YouTube. So thanks to the community of Bethel Park. We appreciate it. And we have a few other shows that are out there. I'm not sure in the tally. We may be over 300, but that's another story. Thanks on Facebook. We hit another new high, 4,137 as of a half hour ago. So thanks everybody for liking our show. We appreciate it. And we've only had the Facebook page. It'll be 2 years on the 13th. So thank you again. We really appreciate all that. So it's good stuff. Now I'm Al Levine, the talking machine. I got Chip the Prophet Hayner, Smoking Jim Frazier, and Zach Brenner. We got to make a special announcement. Zach Brenner is modeling one of our winter knit hats. And he had the base. Look at that. Get a close-up of that hat. And can you go a little lower near his heart? And that's on his left side, your right side. If you just pull in on that. Check his heart out. Heart. Zach Brenner. His heart. This is live TV, folks.
There you go.
These are the first polo shirts that we had. He knows I'm always wearing a polo. Zach Brenner went and picked it up at Waterfront Broidery today. So
classy.
There we go. We got some collars out there, and we're looking at a price. If you like these shirts, can you pull a close-up on mine? You don't have to get my face, but this is in white. I think that one there does it, John.
I like that white.
Yeah, we can't zoom in.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. So $20 for everything from XL on down. And then for the double X's and all that, we're working on those prices. Okay, and Smoking Jim, since he met the lady last night that's going to help him lose another pound, he might be at 3X. So they're all available, and there's special pricing for everything double X on up. And we're just kidding, but we are serious about the shirts. If you like them, and we know we got a lot of fans, let us know. Contact us, and we'll get something out to you. And we'll see about shipping them, because, Zach, we're in 50 countries. So I just wanted you to know that. And all 50 states, so that's pretty good. And we do talk sports, by the way. If you're new to our show, you know that you don't know that we do talk sports, I guess. So we're going to start that. We begin with what's on our mind. And we're going to start with Zach Brenner. What's on your mind?
Well, Al Levine, the talking machine, we're approximately 13 days away from the running of the Daytona 500 in Daytona Beach, Florida. I'll be down there again covering it on location for Pittsburgh Sportsline.
Live.
But what's really on my mind is I had the joys of going to the Fitzgerald Fieldhouse on Friday night and taking in another Pitt women's gymnastics meet versus NC State. I used my Pittsburgh Courier credentials that Smoking Jim Frazier snuck behind the toilet, stalled for me behind the tank. Because it's so old in the Fitzgerald Fieldhouse that they still got the pull chains with the boxes up above. So I reached up behind and I got my pass. And they still made me pay for parking. And they still made me walk cardiac hill.
As well they should there.
But Pitt lost in this meet to NC State in women's gymnastics, but I came away knowing that one of the best gymnasts to ever probably go to Pitt, Lindsay Offutt, who I know personally, did quite well again on Friday night. She's one of the best gymnasts, like I said, at Pitt. But that was Friday. Fast forward to Saturday, I had the honor of co-hosting a Pinewood Derby event in Munhall, PA, and I had 2 cars in it, and neither one of my 2 cars finished in the place, but hey, better luck next year.
That is so disappointing.
Lastly, I want to give a shout out to number 29, Marc-Andre Fleury of your Pittsburgh Penguins. The goalie just passed my all-time hero, Tom Barrasso, and shutouts. I was pretty bummed out about that, but I'll get over it, I guess, in time. But that's what's on my mind tonight, folks.
Thanks, Zach. I counted only 3 things, so that might be a new record for tonight. Smoking Jim Frazier, what's on your mind?
Thanks, Al Levine, the talking machine. And if you want the green,
coming at you.
You got to see Levine. I like that white shirt, man.
Do you?
But,
we'll see about getting you one.
Hey, appreciate it. But what's on my mind is always the NFL draft. In I think just like to talk about maybe the top 7 running backs that's coming out this year in the draft. And in order that I have them, my number 1 rated running back is Tyler Varga from Yale. Number 2 is David Johnson from Northern Iowa. Number 3, Todd Gurley from Georgia. Number 4, Melvin Gordon from Wisconsin. Number 5, T.Y. Yeldon from Alabama. Number 6, Duke Johnson from Miami of Florida. Number 7, Mike Davis. I would love for the Pittsburgh Steelers to draft Tyler Varga from Yale in the 3rd round. But my spotlight player of the week has to go to David Johnson, a 6'2", 230-pounder from Northern Iowa. Al Levine, this guy reminds me of Eric Dickerson.
Really?
He's not the runner that Eric Dickerson was, of course, but he's a better blocker and a better receiver. In fact, this past year, he was a little upset that Iowa didn't recruit him, so he had 5 catches for 200 yards and a 70-yard TD against Iowa, made them pay for not taking him. Just to look at some of his stats, he rushed for 1,600 yards this year. As a junior, he rushed for 1,300. He was over 1,000 as a sophomore and 800 as a freshman. And another thing that he'll help the Pittsburgh Steelers out is this past year he averaged 37 yards per kickoff return. And this is a guy that's 6'2", 230 pounds, should be available in the 3rd round from Northern Iowa. David Johnson, Northern Iowa. That's my spotlight player of the week.
I thought
Nice.
David Johnson worked for WPXI.
got a common name, I guess.
Hey, Smoking Jim, I noticed you picked another player with T.Y. So if T.Y. Gilden's half as good as T.Y. Hilton, I think you might have a winner there. That's what I'm looking at.
Thank you, sir.
And by the way, my brother from another mother blogs. Now, which camera am I going for? All right, whatever it is, Slick Move Guide has a blog. Our friend Jody Velasquez rewrote the book, and it's a great book to read for those of us that can read. And we have Chip and Stephanie used it, and it helped them out. But Smokin' Jim writes a blog, and check out his blog. I put it out there, and I hope nobody's offended, but I said we heard it first on Pittsburgh Sportsline.
Yes, sir.
But you're also a great writer, too.
Thank you.
An award-winning writer, Golden Quill. So, and it's legit. So maybe he'll be the best blogger of the year. So
We can neither confirm nor deny.
Well, no, it was confirmed on the Golden Quill.
I read this blog this afternoon while I was shuffling papers on my desk. While at work. But yes, I was brought up to speed on his top 7 running backs.
Thank you,
Good
sir.
stuff.
Oh, it's all good. He researches that. That's why he watches a lot of that film, as they used to call it. So we appreciate that. All right, Chip the Prophet Hainer, what's on your mind?
Well, thank you, Alan, and good evening, everybody. And what's on my mind is, I read all sports. I kind of try to stay up on everything, and it's happening in the world of sports. And I read about something that happened with one of the major professional franchises in one of the biggest markets in the country, and it made me sit there and think about how fortunate we in Pittsburgh are to have the ownership groups that we have owning our professional sports franchises. Now, for example, we have the Rooney family, and they have over the years have proven to be one of the best organizations or best run organizations. Even though my good friend Jim never spares a chance to criticize them about this, that, or the other thing. We've got the new ownership group of the Pittsburgh Pirates who have finally made good on a promise that they were going to bring championship caliber baseball back to Pittsburgh, and we've got that. The stadium's filling up, and it's it's a great time to be a Pirates fan, and then you also have the Pittsburgh Penguins, and they have consistently packed the Consol Energy Center and had the team in contention for the title for at least the last 7 or 8 years, which is a pretty an admirable feat. Well, I was reading about a team out of the city of New York, And, you know, I've laughingly joked about commissioners and owners of certain franchises.
Hey, I thought you're pretty serious.
No, you know, you've got the you got Daniel Snyder in Washington, who's a train wreck. You've got Jerry Jones, who seems to think he knows more than anybody about everything. And, you know, we make jokes about him. Well, the owner of the New York Knicks has, I think, reached new lows. Okay, and if Donald Sterling was a cancer to National Basketball Association, I think that Mr. Silver, you should think about this one next and find a way to get him out of basketball. And this is the kind of stuff that the New York fans have had to deal with since this guy has taken control of the team in 1999. Not only has the franchise bottomed out in wins, and they were a once proud franchise that are now pretty much the laughingstock, but a fan wrote a letter to the editor, and he was it was an open letter to James Dolan, and he was criticizing Dolan's decisions, and it was, you know, a legitimate criticism of some of the things that he had gone on. So, you know, instead of just keeping his mouth shut and letting the fans say what they want to say, which would have been the intelligent things to do, James Dolan decided to respond thusly. And I am going to read here because I do want to get the quote right. But this is what the owner of the NBA franchise reaction was. Why would anybody write such a hateful letter? I am just guessing, but I'll bet your life is a mess and you are a hateful mess. What have you done that anyone would consider positive or nice? I am betting nothing. In fact, I'll bet you are a negative force in everyone who comes in contact with you. You most likely have made your family miserable. Alcoholic, maybe. I just celebrated my 21st anniversary of sobriety. You should try it. Maybe it would help you become a person that folks would like to have around. In the meanwhile, start rooting for the Nets because the Knicks don't want you. And then he signed it respectfully, James Dolan. Well, if this is the kind of person that's going to own a professional sports franchise in the biggest market in the country, I just don't know what else to say. But that is what's on my mind. Pittsburghers, be glad you got who you got.
Well, just a thought. Maybe that's why nobody really wants to see NBA games in Pittsburgh. Can't get the owners to come out and support. We like winners here.
When you said just a thought,
Not a major market.
I think the young people
for
call
basketball.
girls just a thought anymore. So that's what I bet you.
That's one of those new things in God's country that's coming out.
You have to explain that. Let's not talk about that. The communities, we should just pray for everybody that's been injured and everything else. I mean, seriously. Moment of silence for all the haters are going to hate. Let's not hate. You know, let's try to cooperate. So take a few seconds here.
What's on your mind, Levine?
Oh, what's on my mind is I'm just thankful to be in Pittsburgh, being able to talk sports, because we got major sports everywhere. And then I did want to quash a rumor since it just come out again. We quashed it last night. Zach Brenner quashed it before. Well, on Facebook, you guys know I post a lot of things. Well, I only posted about Sammy Vasquez fighting on the 20th because we haven't heard much. But on the poster, I couldn't cut it on Facebook. So Zach had mentioned that Paul Spatafora, the Pittsburgh kid, didn't work anything out. So I just saw it on a post. I'm not going to name the names, but Paul Spatafora, the Pittsburgh kid, said, I ain't fighting on the 20th. It'll be in March. So if there's nothing more official.
But how gratifying is it, though, that it was reported by Pittsburgh Sportsline right here? You heard it first.
Well, that's why I said
media outlet in the city to tell the people that the Pittsburgh kid was not fighting on February 20th.
Right, and you get a lot of opinions here, and that's why I wanted to emphasize it. Since we're going to have 2 years since our Facebook page is out, you know, we put out a lot of things on every sport. Some of the things I've had replies that, what are you reporting on that? I go, if you read my little statement on it, I report on all sports. We're Pittsburgh-centric. That means we like all the Pittsburgh teams. Okay. We may not agree with what the Pittsburgh teams and ownership do. So, but that's part of it. It's just great to be able to do this show and have these guys here with their chuckles and the sandbox and opinions. And Chip's not always joking. I just had to clarify that. That isn't a joke. So about what you're saying about commissioners, at least over the last few years, I know it isn't. Because I see that vein in your neck getting a little bulging there.
It just amazes me,
Well, that's why I just wanted to, thank everybody for that we're able to do that stuff. And I always got some promos, so we'll get right to it with the owners at Duke's Rib House and Grill. They're celebrating their first anniversary. Am I supposed to look at you, John, or? Okay, because I saw you adjusting there. Sorry. I forgot you're no rookie anymore. Their one-year anniversary is going to be celebrated a whole week, March 6th through the 13th. So come out there for the specials. You may even see Smokin' Jim on a Sunday night. And tell me who he's with. That's all I want to know. Now, the pizza we just ate, it went so fast because we had 22 volunteers here tonight. And now we only got two.
Now we got two.
We got two. We got Devin Shea, who holds the fort down and barely got one piece of pizza. And John the Tiger Kiger. Here's what I feel so bad for him. He's great on the cameras, and he's getting a close-up, or somebody is, of Olive Oil's Pizzeria. He doesn't even eat pizza. He has some issue where he cannot. And there it is with the nice, here, can you get that? And I'm doing that for Devin's sake because I hear him yelling as you keep moving it. But thank you for that. Appreciate it. Now I know on this one, Atria's, you'll get a close-up here. And John, how come I can hear Devin yelling in your ear? We'll be at Atria's on Monday, and come check it out. I talked to Sam Clancy, and a lot of people know the legendary Sam Clancy.
Oh, man.
I confirmed that he will be there, and we have so many guests there, Smokin' Jim. This is going to test all my interviewing skills, so you know. Because you did a heck of a job booking, and a lot of people confirmed that I didn't think would confirm. So we're going to have some fun. Come on out. And if I don't mention the Talking Machine Big Mouth Burger, I don't get that half a cent. So check that out. Zach was waiting for me to do it since he hasn't eaten one yet. He's a tender young lass at 283 pounds.
There's always some prop bets on the show where people, think about how many times you're going to say
what?
The Big
Talking Machine Big Mouth Burger?
Yes, sir.
What's the over and under?
I didn't get today's line, but
all right, let's go to one of our favorite things. Thanks, Zach, for filling in again. I appreciate it. One of the favorite segments that I have here is Smokin' Jim. You ready for it? Fiction and Fact from Smokin' Jim's Almanac.
Hey, thanks, Al Levine, the Talking Machine, and shout out also back in the war room to Matt, Zach, in
You mean Zach the intern?
In the Tiger Kiger Rookie of the Year winner,
2013.
Ian Bell.
We gonna put an asterisk by that?
Well, we might. We'll see.
But I got to say just one thing about what Al was saying last night at Duke's. I tell you what, Al, you were on your A game. Outstanding interviews, man. Your ability to interview, like I said, I used to compare you to Johnny Carson, but I think last night you surpassed anything I ever seen Johnny Carson do. Great job, man. I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Smokin' Jim.
The Fiction and Fact from Smokin' Jim's Almanac goes back to February of 2007. A show called the Steel City Sports World. We actually honored on that show Rob Gronkowski.
Wow.
Rob Gronkowski was actually in his basketball uniform. The Woodland Hills players who was at the show that night had a game that particular night, that Wednesday night, makeup on a snow day, and the guy looked like the kid from Rocky IV, Gronko or whatever they call
Russian
it.
Drago.
And that's what he looked like. He was quiet, and I remember asking him one question, and he said that his idol was Jeremy Shockey. And if you see some of the personalities that Gronk has developed into, you'd see that Jeremy Shockey all in him, but he was just a quiet kid. He didn't catch that many passes at Woodland Hills as a senior, even though he made All-State, because Woodland Hills is primarily running team. But some of the guys who was at that show that night as well was Derek Moy from Rochester High School, played for the Steelers. Shane Hale, who was a parade All-American from the University of Gateway. And Cameron Sattler, everybody knows from Pitt, but more famous from the University of Gateway, that returned 5 kickoffs for touchdowns as a senior, high school
Where's this
senior.
university located at?
to set a national record. But Rob Gronkowski, February 2007, on the TV show.
Before you do, why don't you give a shout out to the founder of Steel City Sports World?
Founder of Steel City Sports World is an outstanding guy that went to a high school that's closed now, Peabody High School. Luther Dupree III, I believe.
Just get the right guy.
His dad's still alive, and his granddad's over 100 years old and still alive. So if Luther keeps living clean, he may see the triple digits.
I'm glad I brought that out, because we got some good information out of a great show that's done once a month, and it's been going on for about 10 years or so, right?
Yeah, over 100 shows in the last 10 years. Yeah.
That's not bad.
If I could just interject a fact into Smoking Jim's fiction. In fact, Gronkowski was actually ruled ineligible by the WPIO because somebody's big mouth said that he moved, to play football or something like that.
That would be his dad.
And that would be his dad, who owns the fitness. You were familiar with that, Levine.
Yes.
The Fitness Giant or whatever that company is out in Monroeville. I think there's one location. But that's neither here nor there. I just said Monroeville.
Oh, you brought it up. It has to be somewhere here or there.
CNC
Right.
Fitness or something like that. But Gronk was ruled ineligible. I think he only played maybe 2 or 3 games for Woody High that season before they kicked him, before they said he couldn't play anymore. So he had mediocre numbers for those few games that he played in. So I'm curious to see how many basketball games he played.
Question for you, Jim. When Gronk was in high school playing, did he play with Steve Breston, or was he after?
No, he only played 1 year, 2006 season. So he'd have been much younger than Stevie Breston. Yeah. Yeah, he played Ryan. He might have played with West Lions. No, maybe not. But he only played one season.
More fiction than fact. Let's stay with the fiction and fact. Thanks for clarifying that.
Good call, though.
And thanks for bringing up about Steel City Sports World out there. So. Chip the Prophet Hayner, let's hear some trivia time.
Let's hear some trivia time. Thank you, Alan. Well, last week, in honor of Black History Month, I figured that I was going to put because of my passion for baseball, I was going to put a baseball spin on my trivia for this month. But I was going to focus on the Negro Leagues. And last week I kind of gave a little bit of a history of the Negro Leagues and the Negro League World Series. Well, this week I wanted to bring to attention, and I thought I was a pretty astute baseball historian. But apparently I wasn't as bright as I thought I was, because if somebody would have told me who was one of the greatest players that played in the Negro Leagues, names that come to mind are people like Josh Gibson, Satchel Paige, Cool Papa Bell. But the greatest player to play in the Negro Leagues was a gentleman named Oscar Charlton.
Really?
Oscar Charlton played in the Negro Leagues from 1915 to 1945. And reading about him today, I was completely mesmerized by his abilities and what some serious baseball historians have said about him. They said Oscar Charlton was without a doubt the greatest Negro League player of all time and one of the best in the history of baseball. He had the bat of Babe Ruth, the defense of Tris Speaker, and the tenacity of Ty Cobb rolled into one dynamic package. they claim that of the 4 greatest baseball players, a guy named James Allen, who puts out Bill James is the guy. Bill James puts out his baseball abstract. He is quoted as saying Oscar Charlton is the 4th best player that he saw of all time. Number 1 being Babe Ruth, number 2 being Honus Wagner, number 3 being Willie Mays, and number 4 was Oscar Charlton. And Monty Clark,
Good stuff.
who played in the outfield with Willie Mays, said about Oscar Charlton that he was Willie Mays before there was a Willie Mays, and he was very integral in recruiting Jackie Robinson to get into the major leagues. Now, one of the things that of his accomplishments, he had a career batting average of 360. They said that he was so fast that they felt that he could outrun the ball. An example of how fast he was when he was a young man, when he was 15, he lied and joined the Army, and he set the Army record for the 220-yard dash at 23 seconds. And
That's moving.
and
Smoking Jim competed that.
and in
event.
1912, the Olympic gold medal was run
Not that year, though.
with the Olympic gold medal was won in 1912 on the 200-yard dash by somebody that ran it in 22 seconds. Wow. So this man, could really move. They said he was nastier than Ty Cobb was on the playing field. Oh. Off the playing field, they said he was one of the nicest, most gentle people that you would ever. There wasn't anybody that ever knew Ty Cobb that could have anything worthwhile to say about him. He was just a surly person. He was nasty on the field and off the field. But I think one of the accomplishments that Mr. Charlton was a part of that ties in with Pittsburgh was he was manager of the 1932 Pittsburgh Crawfords, which happened to be, they said that was the greatest team in the Negro League history. And if I can get to what their record was. Their record was, here it is, 99-36. The number of Hall of Famers on that team included Josh Gibson, Bill Foster, Satchel Paige, Cool Papa Bell, Judd Wilson, Judy Johnson, as well as Oscar Charlton. Wow. Started out his career as a center fielder, ended up playing first base, and even against major league competition, the St. Louis Cardinals, he batted against Dizzy Dean, who is a Hall of Famer, and Bob Feller, who's another Hall of Famer. And in 5 games, he batted like .368, hit 5 home runs. There wasn't anybody that he couldn't hit. But that is what my trivia is about tonight. Probably the greatest player to ever play in the Negro Leagues that never got a chance to play in the major leagues. And I think it's really a shame that he never did. But he was elected into the Hall of Fame in 1976.
Probably could still play first base at that age.
Well, I'll give an assist with, this has been going around Pittsburgh Sportsline for 3 years.
It never gets to the bookend.
Smoking Jim did get 17 pages in there. And I was teasing Chip Hayner about Cool Papa Bell because I had told Jim that before a show one time, and I said, he was so fast he shut the light off. I said it was a little different because there was more of a delay, but he could get in bed under the covers. And Smoking Jim thought I just made that up.
Well,
now it's confirmed on Facebook.
I saw a picture on this web page that I get of a picture of Cool Papa Bell with Lou Brock when Lou Brock set the base stealing record. Really? And they said if Cool Papa Bell would have played in the major leagues, he would have probably set the major league record for stolen bases. And they say that he's possibly the fastest baseball player of all time.
Really?
That is correct.
I don't know. Ricky Henderson was pretty fast.
Well, to throw a guy out there who was fast before he got injured, who they said was one of the fastest, was Mickey Mantle.
Oh.
Yeah. Going to first base to third base, he was just unbelievable. If it weren't for they water the fields, he would have never gotten injured.
What
He tripped over one of the sprinklers.
Sprinkler heads and tore
He
up
was
his
never
knee.
he actually had a bone injury too. So
Well, and back in those days, knee injuries are now, they're no big deal. But back then, the technology didn't exist to repair people's knees.
did he still put up batting numbers up?
Oh, he still put up
yeah,
power
that was
numbers,
young. He was young in his career,
But
maybe
that's-
only a few years in.
and that's why they moved him from center field into first base.
I'll tell you another fast
It's
guy.
easier at first base.
He was a juicer before juicing.
I'll tell you
No,
another-
he was like Babe Ruth.
Drinking is another synonym
He was
for,
like
for
Babe
juicing.
Ruth.
Oh, okay.
Like Billy
What?
Martin,
Yeah.
Whitey Ford. Those
I'll
are-
tell you
All the
ano-
greats were
I'll tell you-
And we won't talk about any of the vitamin pills they took called greenies back then either.
I'll tell you another fast guy that don't get a lot of credit.
Who's
for
that?
is Bobby Bonds. Bobby Bonds. is fast.
Bobby Bonds was a tremendous athlete when he came up. It's a shame that his career didn't pan out the way that they would have liked. But I mean, he came up on a team that had Willie Mays and Willie McCovey, and two of the best power hitters of all time.
Yes.
So
Well, that's it. Now we got Z time.
Oh, really?
Okay, that's it.
I was just
What'd you
as
Google
I
there?
ponder a lot of the facts and the trivia and all the such that comes before Z time. I was just saying to myself that the Pittsburgh Steelers NFL scout has the Minnesota Vikings hat on to my right, and there's just something that just makes me feel funny about that.
Got
Is
a
that
black
odd?
quarterback. It's Black
And then I
History
said to
Month.
myself, maybe, just maybe, that he's trying to wear a Central Catholic Vikings hat. And then I said, nah.
Let me give you the bottom line since it's Z time. One of my favorite shows, one of the 3 shows that I watch, it's called Vikings. It's coming out on the 19th. So Smoking Jim's doing it in honor of me.
There you go.
He gave me all those compliments, so how could it not be about me? Oh, Z, you want to give your little...
If only that
What
was
else
true.
could be during Z time since we're rambling a little?
Well, I touched a little bit on there's 13 days till the Daytona 500. Well, something new this season that wasn't there last season. They've prohibited teams from practicing at any of the tracks throughout the season. So they won't be able to, to have any kind of information or data as they go back to these tracks because they've changed the cars. They won't let you practice anymore. So I can't wait for the Daytona 500 where the playing field's going to be as leveled as it's ever been because everybody has the same amount of time, whether you got millions of dollars or you only got $100,000. You've had the same amount of time with your cars, so it's going to be a good 500.
Well, why are they doing that now?
Well, because what was happening is that the teams that have the more prominent and have the more money
Right.
were able to have old drivers, ex-drivers going out there running these cars, getting these cars as dialed in as possible before they get to these tracks because they don't just have one car. They have some of the bigger teams with the bigger budgets have about 10 cars for the season, to go to various tracks and various races with various setups. So now by eliminating the ability to allow these teams to test and constantly adjust the cars as we get ready for the season, it's going to add a whole new dynamic to it because there is no information, there is no data. They're showing up to the track and let's take the car off and let's go, let's qualify and let's run the race and it's going to make it real interesting. The drivers are going to have a lot
How
more.
do they monitor this? Because we talk about sports and commissioners and everything else, we have CBA's rules and everything else. Who's watching all this?
Well, to answer your question, NASCAR is watching this through the tracks. By monitoring the tracks, they, so the best part about it was there was just a test down in Daytona on January 22nd, and they only invited 10 random teams to come down to the test for Goodyear to test, and there was drivers that weren't even listed that showed up. So half the drivers showed up to Daytona just to watch the other drivers ride around because they just wanted to see, what was going on and what was happening. So, like I said, it's going to be great. I got pit passes. I'll be in the back. So we're going to, it's going to be a great weekend in Daytona.
Well, the NASCAR season ended with a brawl in the, after the race, and I'm looking forward to the first fist fight of this year.
Yeah, but they're about 5'3". They're not even up the weight like some of the MMA fighters.
You see the
and
way they
boxers.
swing them helmets.
Hey, there's some Tony Stewart. Tony Stewart's a regular sized gentleman, so
Well, since we're on NASCAR, I had somebody just come up to me the other day. I talked to just about everybody, in case you didn't know. And they said, we watch your show, Now, how come you consider NASCAR a sport? So I said, because my brother-in-law Gary and, biggest fan out of New Jersey, my sister Hope, they went to all the tracks. They traveled because he worked in the auto business back then. And I used to argue with them about it not being a sport until, he told me he met a couple of these guys. They train, they work out. Because they're in a car, how many hours? It could be 4 hours, it could be 8 hours.
It could be. And
they have to withstand 4G. Now, that's not a tennis shoe smoking, Jim. It's like the astronauts receive, it's gravity pulling on them, and you could rupture a spleen or a heart or die if you're not in shape. So they're going around the track at such speed and angles and everything with the cars, the way they keep them on the track, aerodynamically, and the tires.
Is astronauts a sport?
Definitely. That's the life and death sport.
Wow.
You want to go into outer space?
To be
how do we get off NASCAR? So my thing is, I know you're going to say they're athletes.
Because he's NASCAR, NASA. To Smoking Jim Frazier, it's close enough. The abbreviations.
Yeah.
Do you believe they're Chip? Go ahead. You wanted to chime
No,
in on what I'm saying.
speaking of NASCAR, and I always I tease Zach, about it, but hey, he's passionate about NASCAR, and there's millions of fans nationwide. The sport is very popular. This year, Jeff Gordon is the last year he's going to race competitively for a full season.
Really?
Jeff Gordon
Yes.
is, here's the thing. Jeff Gordon has won 4 championships, and he won them very early in his career, and then they changed the rules in the way they do the chase for the Cup. And had they kept the rules the way they were and not changed them, he would probably be the greatest NASCAR driver of all time. They said he would have won at least 3 or 4 more championships.
I'd catch
He
you
would have.
there.
He would have tied Dale Earnhardt and, of course, the King, Richard Petty.
Yeah, that gets her done there.
And
buddy.
we don't, over on this side of the table, we don't consider a couple things. We don't consider Richard Petty the king of NASCAR, and we don't consider Wayne Gretzky the greatest hockey player in hockey. So, and recently, not to segue over out of Z time, Wayne Gretzky was even saying that Gordie Howe is the greatest hockey player of all time. So he doesn't even consider himself the great one.
Very humble guy. But I just got an update from Paul Spatafora. He said Gordon ain't retired. I can't get any more official than that.
Hey. But you know what?
if you get a new line, go ahead and use it.
But
I ain't
just
fight-
got some new material.
But to keep the fires of the debate rolling, how do you not consider Richard Petty the king when he's won over 200 races?
And he wasn't on steroids. I don't want to hear your excuses.
Dale
Steroids.
Dale Earnhardt didn't even break 100.
Wait, listen to this.
He loves them.
Listen to this. Richard Petty. Richard
Nah.
Petty was at
Ding,
Dover,
ding.
and I had a chance.
Ding, ding.
I had a chance. I was right there. I was the front of the line, and they said, Richard Petty, the king's coming, sir. And I was like, I'm getting out of here. And they said, oh, you're getting out of here? I said, yeah. Richard Petty's not the king to me. Dale Earnhardt is the king of NASCAR. And I'm going to tell you why Dale Earnhardt is the king of NASCAR. And even Richard Petty knows that Dale Earnhardt's the king of NASCAR. Richard Petty did
I
it.
deny that.
Richard Petty
I'll
did
defend
it.
Richard right now.
Richard Petty did it against nowhere near the kind of opposition and stuff that Dale Earnhardt faced. The talent that Dale Earnhardt
that
faced.
he was on.
I mean, for Pete's sakes, Chip, Richard Petty won the first 50 races on the beach in the sand where they originally started.
Did you ever drive on a beach in the sand?
Yeah.
I have
I'll be
too.
there.
It's
Reporting.
hard.
The only thing you can do is you can, the venue that you're participating in, you can either win it or not. I mean, so he just won everything.
He
that
does
did.
Here's what bothers me. Richard Petty's the king to me. All right? For the reason he did it against his peers under the same conditions, and nobody was close. And that's some of the criteria you use. I don't want to try to bust your chops, but
That's
I don't
like
mind
saying, right? How about then we just anoint Jimmy Johnson the greatest NASCAR driver ever? Because in a stretch where he did something that nobody ever done, he won 4 or 5 consecutive championships back to back.
Junior Johnson.
No, Jimmy Johnson, current Jimmy Johnson, not Junior Johnson. Jimmy Johnson, the number
Well,
48
then why
car,
don't we?
owned by Jeff Gordon. But I'm just saying,
Well,
though,
why don't we, though?
I don't know. Why don't we?
Okay,
then?
I'll
Let's
give a
crown
vote
him.
to him.
Let's crown him because he doesn't have.
No, but I think you have ulterior motives because we said the king is really the king. And you can't respect that.
Nope.
even though his record stands on its own. And people that talk about him say he was the most competitive guy. Another thing that you talk about, the competitiveness.
Earnhardt rattled his cage on more than one occasion.
When he was an older man.
So
he was driving at the time.
Let's leave it like this. We'll just have to
Earnhardt
agree
couldn't
to
even make
disagree.
it to his age when he was beating him.
We'll just have to agree to disagree.
Hey,
my
the
friend.
greatest
I
NASCAR
can't.
driver died in 2001 on the last turn of the last lap of the Daytona 500.
Well, may he rest in peace, but one thing I want to put on there, he was one of the most hated people, and it was rare to see such a following for him. It was actually a smaller group, and you like some of that stuff now because you like people to be that way. So when you grew up, you didn't have the Pirates to root for.
Whatever it takes to win.
You didn't have the Pirates to root for. It changed
There
you.
was good old boys like Terry Labonte in 1996 at Bristol Motor Speedway on the last lap. Dale Earnhardt could have just let him go and win the race. Nope, he hit him in the end, spun him around, and took the race. And
Yeah,
won.
but you
Like,
like that. And
hey,
Richard Petty did
whatever it
that all
takes.
day long. They were afraid
But
to
he
get
never
near
did
him.
it. He never did it to Dale Earnhardt. though.
Well, my
He was an
favorite-
old man.
well, my
It's like
favorite-
Babe Ruth coming out of the grave.
well, my favorite racer of all time is Danica Patrick.
There you go.
I wish you would have said like Mario Andretti and really threw
All
some
right,
fuel onto
we're
it.
done with whatever segment Z time was. Z, we
over.
covered a lot of stuff there.
Thank you.
On location, I want to talk about Duke's Rib House and Grill last night. Not only Smoke and Jim have the greatest rack of ribs there, again, he got it to go. But we had some great guests who surprised us. Our first guest, that Heather Ferry, who I brought on because she knows that Kundalini yoga, and she taught Smoke and Jim how to actually breathe correctly. And it's a deep breathing, and it'll help Smoke and Jim. It'll help Zach Brenner when he does other things.
Is it going to help Smoke and Jim lift his 225 pounds?
Yes, it
10
will.
times?
Yes, it will, because his core will be much stronger. That's part of that. So we learned that. Then we had, guests like your legendary friend Amir Dudley.
Yes, sir.
And he's talking about the youth in Rochester that he's helping, his own son he's coaching. We had Dan J chime in on what's his friend Amir talking about, and I had to tell him. So I helped Zach out while Zach was out in the cold again. And we had these great guests here. Rayco War Saunders was there talking about his acting in the new movie Southpaw with Jake Gyllenhaal and how realistic it was and what shape he's in. Now, there's a vegetarian. So he was filling us in on what he's been doing lately, and he got a lot of good things going out there in the community and with himself. So that was good stuff there, too. And then we had the legendary Skeets
Yes, sir.
come out not once but twice. He messaged me on Facebook, how's it going? So he come out. He said, can I bring a boxer? The pro boxer couldn't make it, like you heard, but he brought a KO student, another young lady who's boxing. She's been 1 year in boxing. She's a 10th grader, Alexa, and she's undefeated. 3 fights. I was surprised. I didn't even realize she had 3 fights. So we learned that. So we learned a lot of great things, what's happening in the community from young to old. And Skeets was just great. He also looks good if you ever see any of his photos with the Pittsburgh Sportsline winter knit hat. He was the first guy to buy one. And by the way, they're $12 for the knit hat. Z, I told you I'd get a couple of those in there. And he just had so much information from Jason Bergman, had suffered an injury, and he'll be boxing. We got all the Golden Gloves coming up starting on the 21st, 28th. And he also mentioned about Sammy Vasquez fighting at the Consol Energy Center. And he's under a new team. Iron Mike Productions no longer, I don't know if they're in business or anything. I think
No,
they're
it's out.
done. So I heard they disbanded. So the fun we had with Iron Mike Tyson and all that, that's over. Now Sammy's going to another
I'm so
chapter.
glad we got the chance to fix that photo. Do you know how glad we are we got to fix that? Well, me, I don't know about you.
IDC, baby. But yeah, I'm glad that you did because that was one of your heroes. And whether they become tainted or not, you stick through with them no matter what. So just
How much
like
is the baseball-
Richard Petty's the
How much is
king.
the baseball caps?
15
They're
bucks.
they're $15.
That ain't bad.
Yeah, so got some good prices. And these T-shirts or these polo shirts, $20 if you're not over XL. So
ain't bad.
we'll go
I
from
like the
there.
white.
I know we may have to work something out there. So And that's our on location time. We had a lot of conversation about many different subjects. So I'm going to open up. We got 14 minutes. So for the next 12 minutes, it's not going to be what's on your mind. But if there's a team that's on your mind or something, or a sport you'd like to talk about, and since Zach and Chip have been going at it, Smoking Jim's been rather quiet. So Smoking Jim, I'll let you lead the open discussion right now. This is Pittsburgh Sportsline first. Let's have an open discussion. And what sport would you want to talk about?
Football.
It's no surprise.
Okay, Michael. Football.
You got to get the ball rolling. Heard some reports from Kevin Colbert today that they're in negotiations to extend Ben right now, and that's probably going to get done sooner as opposed
There's
to
no
later.
doubt.
The thing I found disturbing is that they are contemplating using the transition tag for Jason Worlds. And I thought Jason Worlds was overpaid at $9.5 million last year for what, 6.5 sacks? Well, if he gets the transition tag this year, that means that his minimum salary would be $11 million.
Wow.
You know, and I've just got to tell you, there's ever a player that I've seen that's not worth $11 million, it's Jason Worlds. Now, if they were to use the franchise tag on him, his value would be $13 million.
Oh, let's go with that.
You know, if I'm Jason Worlds, I'm signing. Get the contract out here, and I'm signing it before you change.
Who's
your
his
mind.
agent? It's a no-brainer.
Reality, Jason Worlds ends up playing with the Cleveland Browns.
You
He's
heard
not
it
coming back
first.
to the Steelers.
Really?
Not at those figures, because you know what? If we learn anything about those cheap Roonies, they're not spending that
How
kind
are
of
they
money.
cheap Roonies?
They're not spending that kind of money on Worlds because they know when to dump
You
these guys.
talk bad about
they know when
the
to
best
dump these
people.
guys.
I can't believe
They
it.
know when
See,
to dump.
right
There
now-
goes our free tickets for the Steelers.
Then here's the thing I want to hear Jim's comment about. I heard a
15
comment
minute
attributed to your old friend Greg Lloyd.
Uh-huh.
And he talked about a certain member of the Steelers. Well, actually, the only outside linebacker that's signed by the Steelers right now. And he talked about what Jarvis Jones displays on the field.
I heard he's not too slow anymore.
He said that he could get any guy that he plays golf with to do the exact same thing. Wow. They could run up and down the field and not make any plays. He said what he wants to see out of Jarvis Jones is he expects him to be the leader, to watch more film than anybody else, to prepare better, to be the beast in the gym, to be the beast on the practice field, to make plays. And I think Greg Lloyd knows just as well as we do that those things just aren't going to happen.
Hey, Smoking Jim, what were you going to bring up here before we started this? What about football? That's what I want to know. Vikings?
Well, close. So what I was actually going to bring up is something me and Chip was talking about a little bit before the show, is how hypocritical Jerry Rice is.
Yes, sir.
I mean, these guys shoot off their mouth hell of being a talking machine, and then they forget that just 5 seconds ago they did an interview saying that they cheated by spraying stickum on their gloves. So it's just crazy sometimes. These guys are so used to being in the limelight, they can't step out and let somebody
Well, look
else
at your
do
favorite
something.
player of all time, Brett Favre. I had the highest respect for
What's
him
wrong with him?
because he retired, then he come back. Do you remember? Because you seem to have selective memory loss.
He did nothing wrong. That's why this Viking cap is.
I thought something was there. How did I know?
You got a New York
I
Jets
pulled
fan?
that Brett Favre at.
Meanwhile, he's getting his jersey retired at Lambeau Field.
As well he should. That's how I want to remember him.
I thought you would remember him as a Falcon.
No, I want to remember him before he spoke.
Maybe his greatest
After his
season was
retirement.
the 1 year with the Vikings.
Oh, I'm
That
not
was
worried
great.
about
He
that.
threw 6
I want to
touchdowns
remember
on
him as a Packer
Yeah.
before he started crying, and then before he come back. I'd rather remember
Before
before
that, he
that.
was Atlanta Falcons.
No, he was a Packer for how many years?
Yeah,
Come
but
on.
he-
You can't
He was
change
He
history.
was drafted
I'll
by the
sell
I
you-
know he
I'll
was.
sell you a Brett Favre rookie card.
And who did Brett
Magikowski.
Yeah, the Magic Man. But you know what? Though,
Nothing
getting
about Brett
back
I
to
don't
Jim's
know.
point about these athletes. See, I tell you what. I mean, these guys they're no longer irrelevant. People like Jerry Rice, and I was talking to Jim. I said one of the best athletes that of all, pretty much could arguably be said the greatest quarterback of all time was Joe Montana. When Joe Montana left football, he walked away. You never heard another thing about him. You know what? And he just let his play on the field speak for him.
Now he's in Papa John's commercials.
You know what? He needs a little money.
Rudy taught him to keep his mouth shut.
No, he didn't. Rudy don't do that.
You get Jerry Rice that sits there on one hand. He criticizes the Patriots for cheating, and then then in the next sentence says, "Oh yeah, well, I used illegal substances my entire career." Well, then that just invalidates every record that he ever set. You know, and if
But isn't that typical when we talk about sports? They're all looking for edges. Look at his favorite sport. They're cutting the edges out, but I'll bet a few guys have come up with things on the track that you can adjust that others don't have. See? Right, he condones cheating. See? As long as it's his man.
Cheating, you're not trying hard.
And I disagree with that.
I disagree with
we
that
have
wholeheartedly.
rules, and the problem is when people come back, they forget.
These guys are crazy. They never tell, like, you could never stand here and say that if you didn't take a little bit of, anything, to get that grip on that ball.
Here's what I did.
That's why you never made it to the bigs.
No, it isn't. I wasn't capable of being
whatever it takes.
No, I disagree with that.
Totally disagree.
Stay in school. Try your
Juice
best.
Cut it loose.
Juice and cut it loose.
We got 2 juicers on there. 225 pounds, 32 times. 283 pounds body weight.
I'm working on it.
We don't know what else he's doing. I don't want to know. But going back to Smoking Jim, throughout all the eras, they've cheated one way or the other. Look at when they'd have casts on. Look at how you were allowed to slap guys in the head.
Yeah.
Different things
Hey,
like that.
Can I get your opinion right now of a sad story? I just saw an article on Tony Dorsett, and CTE is really taking a huge impact.
Right.
To all the blows that he's taken to his head, because he's saying that he never thought that life after football was going to be like this, because now he's in a whole nother kind of fight.
But you know what, though? The one thing that I did admire about what he said, and it's a tragic story what's going on with Tony Dorsett. He's 60 years old, and he's probably got things that happen to people in their 80s or 90s. But he said, he goes, this is what I bargained for. This is what I bought into, and he didn't realize it was going to be as painful as it is for what he's going through now. But he said, this is the life I chose. So, he's basically saying it isn't anybody's fault he's at where he's at. It's because of the choices he made that's here. Now, I admire that because, you get into football and you're like basically in like 50 or 60 car wrecks for however many plays you're in. People collide. And you have to think that, at some point that's going to take effect. They saw the old timers, guys limping around, getting knees replaced, shoulders.
Well, how about they
limbs.
say they're goofy or they're punch drunk and they weren't boxers?
Right.
I guess you were concussed too many times. Like, I hope it doesn't happen to our esteemed colleagues over there, because I know they've been concussed.
We all
many
have.
times.
If you've played sports, at some point or another, you got your bell rung.
Well,
There's no doubt. Me too.
Well, the only thing I ever thought about Tony Dorsett, maybe the greatest college player of all time, one of the greatest in the NFL, was always thought that he should have got a DNA test for his son, because it's the only Dorsett I ever knew that couldn't walk and chew gum at the same time.
And this is the opinions you get on Pittsburgh Sportsline. He's adding a little
He
levity
did a
here.
couple of things good in
but
college
you know
football.
what, though? For his Jim, he did make it to the
Dallas.
NFL,
He
played
holds
a
the
few
block
seasons.
down.
Hold it.
Yeah.
Wait.
His son
Since
did.
we're revising history, isn't he in the Hall of Fame?
Tony is.
Not
Tony
his son.
Dorsett. His son, I don't even know who his son is.
He was a defensive back for the
Junior.
Oilers.
Used to
Didn't he
take-
play for the
He
Oilers?
used to take the worst angles of all time. You had Tennessee Titans. Yeah,
Well, who was coaching him?
any long runs. He'd run you down after he took the bad angles. But
Well, that's not bad. That's why you're a scout. Quit watching that old
I
film.
know.
Watch
Come on, we
the
gotta
new
get you some
film.
new film. We gotta get him some new film. Get him
Please watch new film. We need that. Well, I'm glad you guys went back with
Colbert.
the revisionist there.
Colbert.
Zach, you covered sports that we're not really big fans of. Do you have a sport that you want to talk about tonight for a minute or two?
Well, let's talk a little bit about boxing. It's rumored that me and Al Levine, the talking machine, due to Smoking Jim's visa problems, we may be traveling via donkey to Venezuela to take in a championship WBC bout with Lightning Rod Soca
Wow.
in Venezuela.
I knew we'd hear it. I didn't know when I'd bring it out. I thought Z-Time would do it. You were looking for more camera time,
I
weren't
can't
you?
get a passport.
Well, what's your government name?
As stated early in my statement.
Because he'd have to provide his birth date.
Mario
Full name,
Tempest, Trapper
birthday,
Tom.
social security number.
We almost had him slip up. He gave some key information the other day, but it didn't come out. We're still stymied on this.
Nope.
The search for Smoking Jim's birth
Bob
certificate.
Crescent inboxed me and said that he's looking into it for us.
Well, then we'll know shortly. Okay, your
What
point
about to know about the Minnesota Miracle Man?
Well, we don't know about that. Your point on Rod Sulka, who will be his opponent? Who are they speculating on right now?
Well, it's being decided. So there's a good fighter in Japan that he could face. I'm not going to Japan. That's way too long of a plane ride for me. But
you
it's looking
tower
like
over
Llanera,
a lot of the people.
It's looking
there.
like Llanera in Venezuela. So
Okay.
that's a huge fight. I mean, that's for all the big ones there. So you're not going to get a hometown decision in Venezuela for Rod Sulka. So to beat a champ, you're going to have to beat the champ. So hopefully we fare better in Venezuela than we did in Brooklyn. But it's a little bit fairer now. Other than the venue, the judges, everybody in the whole place,
Will it be outside in the sun? Maybe there could be in their eyes.
it could be hot in the sun.
This Golden Boy.
That's right.
This Golden Boy.
Yeah.
Best refs money could buy.
So
It all depends. Hey, Ali could do it. Let's see what happens. I go for Rod.
hey, one more real quick. It says true legends never die. Number 3 forever. Dale Earnhardt, folks. That's
I
the
always wanted to
truth.
be number 1. I
That's
don't
the
understand
truth.
that number 3.
Yeah, we are
What
number
is that?
3.
The true number. The true.
I
the
don't
true
get that
best.
stuff there.
The true best.
Chip, you got anything you want to mention here? as we
Sure, I
wind
got
this down?
8 days until the journey begins, man. 8 days. Bradenton
Spring.
and pitchers and catchers report.
Grapefruit?
Yeah. The Grapefruit League will start
After that.
in March is when the Grapefruit League starts, but it will be the beginning of the journey till the Central Division crown for 2015 with Pittsburgh Pirates.
I'm taking all bets.
Chip's all in with that. I don't bet on losing anymore because I think they can do it, and I love the second wild card. To me, if they make it every year with a second wild card, I'm good because you're in it. And anything can happen in a short series, one game. We've seen it. The better team doesn't always win, but I'll take luck. I just had this conversation with somebody today. I'd rather be lucky than good in every situation because the best teams don't always win.
Yeah, and
the
you know,
luckiest teams,
that's
good
true.
luck,
And
always win.
And I think what the
Always.
Pirates what the Pirates have done, they've positioned themselves very well. They've worked on strengthening the areas they were weak in over the winter months. What they've done is they've shored up the bench. They've improved the bench players
Yeah,
that
it was
they have.
32 feet. Now it's 28. Because he doesn't know. He doesn't know.
He wouldn't.
Why are you
You
talking?
know what? He's trying to
You
get
only got
under
about
my
20
skin.
seconds there.
Finish
Yeah,
this
he's
up.
trying to throw you off.
but,
You just knocked a foul ball out of the park.
But the pitching staff's deep. We've got plenty of young arms in the farm system. Tyon's coming along real well with his recovery from Tommy John surgery. And the best part of all of this is that our starting pitching staff is deep enough that we don't have to rush Tyon back. We can let him rehab and get strong so that when we need him, a pennant race or something like that, he'll be able to come up and contribute. And then moving forward, we'll have one of our starting 5 for
And
2016.
your little
and
Pirate thing, all I wish is they stay healthy. They look great on paper.
Yes,
They've
they
had
do.
great reports there. Stay healthy.
Yes, sir.
Zach Brenner, thanks for your insights, even though I disagreed with 90% of them tonight. Smoking Jim Frazier, your interruptions almost threw us off. Didn't quite happen. Chip, thanks again. It seems like this side's agreeing more than that side, so we'll go with it. Thanks to all of you for watching us. We appreciate that. It's been a pleasure talking about sports, which we love, and some other things too. And keep watching us on Verizon 32 everywhere, Comcast 7 only in Bethel Park. Be safe out there. Cold weather's coming back because guess what? It's wintertime in Pittsburgh, February. Take care. See you next week.